Okay, yeah, just a few more seconds.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. Brother Adam, whenever you're ready, you can begin. Thank you.
Inshallah. Thank you. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're reading from the second remedy. Okay. O ill person who lacks patience, be patient. Indeed, offer thanks. Your illness may transform each of the minutes of your life into the equivalent of an hour's worship. Your illness may transform each of the minutes of your life into the equivalent of an hour's worship. For worship is of two kinds. One is positive, like the well-known worship of supplication and the 5 daily prayers. The other are negative forms of worship, like illness and calamities. By means of these, those afflicted realize their impotence and weakness. They beseech their all-compassionate Creator and take refuge in Him. They manifest worship which is sincere and without hypocrisy. Yes, there's a sound narration stating that a life passed in illness is counted as worship for the believer, on condition he does not complain about God. It is even established by sound narrations and by those who uncover the realities of creation that 1 minute's illness of some people who are completely patient and thankful become the equivalent of an hour's worship. Sorry. It is even established by sound narrations and by those who uncover the realities of creation that 1 minute's illness of some people who are completely patient and thankful becomes the equivalent of an hour's worship, and a minute's illness of certain perfected men the equivalent of a day's worship. So you should not complain about an illness, which as though transforms 1 minute of your life into 1,000 minutes and gains for you long life. You should offer thanks. Okay. So I believe we read this last week, if I'm not mistaken. And I see that, where's my chat? I see that last week there was something pointed out that Hamim is pointing out here again. Positive and negative, according to the text, actually really should be translated as active and passive. So in other words, this statement or this sentence that says for worship is of two kinds. One is positive, like the well-known supplication of the 5 daily prayers. This one should be called, that one can be left positive, but the second one, which is referred to here as negative, should be in fact translated as passive. So the other are not negative, but passive forms of worship, like illness and calamities. By means of these, those afflicted realize their impotence and weakness. And they beseech their all-compassionate Creator and take refuge in Him. Okay, so passive is a good thing to know, because passive implies that one's not really doing something. It's being bestowed upon that person. So because it's bestowed on that person, he didn't have a say in the matter, really. And because of that, it makes one realize then his own inability to really have a say over what's going on in his life. So this passive form of worship, not just passive in the sense of what's bestowed on him, but passive form of worship, I think it means that the passive form, meaning the passive things that happens to this person, like in illness and and calamities, which is bestowed on him through his own passive disposition, means he doesn't do anything. But it's not that he's passive, of course. He turns around and says, I am weak and I'm impotent. So that, quote, passive worship is in fact much more, as is said here, sincere and without hypocrisy. Because a person apparently doesn't have, as we think about it, doesn't have any say in the matter, because it comes without his say, it pronounces to him that he is being changed upon in a way that is maybe not to his liking, but in a way in which he has no control in the matter. So impotence is realized, weakness is realized. So this issue of positive and passive forms of worship is one maybe inner point, but the broader point I think that's being discussed here is that sickness is, of course, not something to lose one's patience about, or let's say, instead of not just losing patience, but also not trying to look at it, we're not looking at it from a egocentric point of view, or, right? You don't take it from this side, but instead you say, because the ego side tries to take a position that things should be in a certain way for him or her. So instead of being with it, gets so losing patience. But what's being said, because, or I'm sorry, not because, but instead of being impatient or losing patience, indeed look at the matter from a different perspective. Look at the matter in a different perspective. The context of which is the issue of worship here. So your life becomes more full of worship, or your life becomes more full of what it really, what your real life and purpose was meant for here. And as a result, one who bears it with patience is given a reward, or is given some kind of positive encouragement, I think later on, by those sound narrations that says, those who bear it with complete patience and thankfulness, their minutes become equivalent to hours of worship. And minutes for some become like a day's worship. Now, this issue of time and how much time something takes up, or how much something is counted, really needs to be thought about in terms of one's not quantifiable measurement of time, but qualitative maybe side of time. What the fruit of the time really is, or what the result of the time really is, which equates to how it was used. So time may be 1 minute for two people, but one is taking it with no meaning and taking it without trying to understand what its purpose is and what its aims are within one's own self, within one's own life. So that 1 minute is just gone, didn't do anything. Maybe they just, I don't know, bore the pain, or they took something to get over the pain, but they never achieved any kind of self-realization about their own neediness, their own impotence. Whereas the other one, same minute is transpiring, but is getting much more, up to his own maybe capacities, consciousness about the matter. That 1 minute would result in, as it said here, based on the narrations, sound narrations. So some people completely patient and thankful becomes equivalent to an hour's worship, and a minute's illness of certain perfected men, the equivalent of a day's worship. So it's implying to me that 1 minute, in 1 minute, one can achieve what someone does in the whole day in terms of realization of through their own worship, or through their own whatever religious, spiritual worship activities. So 1 minute under illness, although in illness is a difficult maybe state, nobody wants illness, but still illness should not be complained about. Instead, illness can turn your 1 minute into a day's worship, or give you the realization. 1 minute of it can give you the realization of what a day's worth of work can give you. So if it's something like this, if it's such a fast road, I guess you could say, then why complain about it? And instead, as it said in the final sentence, so you should not complain about an illness which is as though transforms 1 minute of your life into 1,000 and gains for you long life. So 1 minute of your life being turned into thousands of minutes is a pretty nice exchange. Is a very nice exchange, and is a very honorable, meritorious type of thing to do. So and to experience. So one should do this. One should instead try to go to this side of the issues of illness, not to the other side, which gets one nowhere anyway. So, and instead, one should offer thanks. Thanks for what a nice exchange, what a nice trade one can do through illness. It's very nice. Any thoughts, comments? Sorry, I wasn't looking. I'm on a mobile device, so sorry, Asa, I didn't see your hand up there. Would you like to share?
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I like what you were saying about the exchange and trade, about 1 hour of or a minute, and trade that for like a whole day worth of worship. So realization takes how important that is. But I wanted to go back to like the first sentence of the second remedy, and how he starts with, "O ill person who lacks patience." So I wanted to see, hey, okay, let's say I am ill, and what is the author telling me in terms of lacking patience? Because he follows it with be patient, indeed offer thanks. I don't see that really happening. If you're afflicted with any kind of illness, or if you're sick, excuse me, like how are you saying offer thanks for that sickness? What? So that's something that I have a question on, and I think maybe we can talk about what that means, because I think that ties into how he says, that is what the author thinks of what patience means in terms of being thankful, offer thanks, be patient, which I think is equivalent to being thankful. But when you are an ill person, so how is it that as an ill person, I would realize that I am lacking my patience and I need to be thankful? How does that process work? If we can maybe put some comments on that, or talk on that a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I was trying to speak about this issue when I was giving my explanation in the beginning, and so I think maybe you're right, though it needs to be elaborated on more. Let me open up to everybody who would like to respond to Asim's question. Muhammad Saeed, please.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry, but I had a little connection problem. Can Asim repeat his question, please? Thank you.
Okay, if you can hear me better, please let me know. Just say like a thumbs up if you can hear me, or a comment. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so my question was, I was going back to the first sentence of the second remedy, on how the author starts with the ill person who lacks patience, and I was trying to see the relationship of patience, and the second part of the sentence where he says, "Be patient indeed, offer thanks." So there's some idea from the author here where he thinks that the patience is something that is related to being thankful, being grateful. And I was saying how I don't see that really happening on when somebody's sick, that they are being grateful. Hey, thank you for, this sickness that is being imparted. And I was thinking that I think we need to discuss this a little more and try to understand what is going on here. And the author says, hey, you are ill, but you lack patience. So trying to bring it more, making it more relevant to my being. And then he says, be patient indeed, offer thanks. That's pretty solid in terms of, hey, and very strange to me, that be patient indeed, offer thanks as an ill person. And this is the remedy, because he even ends the whole section of the second remedy with, you should offer thanks. So there's something going on here. So I would just wanted to see if, anybody, that was my comment, basically, just to repeat it a little bit. If that made sense to anyone, or. So somebody put a comment here, patience, thankful as per Nursi. How do we go on with this process, as in making it practical to our experiences? Yeah, thank you for formalizing that question. Perfect, thank you.
Brother Muhammad Saeed, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for putting your question again for me. I think it's a great question, and I was thinking about the same thing. I would like to share what comes to my mind is that I feel that the lack of being thankful is filled with being impatient. They are kind of a replacement of each other. And but what is it that makes me impatient, or what is it that that is supposed to bring me um, peace or being thankful? It's very interesting in the case of being sick. The I face a reality of me that um, I am not the owner of myself, as the verse in the beginning of this chapter, the author is reflecting on a particular verse that everything is from God, and in practical life, when I feel that I am not the owner, and this reality uh, takes me to two different response. Either I'm going to have a peace with my reality that I am not the owner of myself, or the same reality it can be filled with complaining, as the author also mentions about it, that this awareness of being impotent can result in complaining. How? I think it is related to um, this state of, or this, it is related to me if I'm asking, then who is my owner? Or do I have any caregiver, or I am just by myself and the things are coming on me, falling on me haphazardly? Um, as as the reality of me, when I attend to question my reality, I see that I am given existence, and my source of existence cannot be anything but the owner of the whole universe. And I start feeling some kind of a security in the things that I am given, being sickness or some other things, because I observe that the owner of the universe, the activities taking place in the universe, uh, kind of telling me that the owner is a wise one. Um, so this kind of connection opens a way for me to be thankful with me being in um, being not the owner of anything, but being owned by the owner of the universe. So as in as the word patient uh, tells me in English, patient means who is expected to be patient, who's supposed to do the patience, which can only be achieved by recognizing that I am a recipient of the things on me only. I am not the owner of anything, and the things being bestowed on me or given to me, and someone else is operating on me. Um, that's all.
Thank you. I'm sorry, is the text, did we shift the text somewhere else? Well, what we see on the screen? Okay. Unless, yeah, thank you. Okay, I see H. Beza has her hand up, and I can go tend to something real quick. Please, H. Beza.
Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to echo Muhammad Said's sentiments and thank Asim for his question. I think in the later part of the text where it says in regards to the passive forms of worship, like illnesses and calamities, it says, by means of these, those afflicted realize their impotence and weakness. They beseech their all-compassionate Creator and take refuge in Him. So the way I'm trying to make sense of this is in that state of illness or calamity, I can more, in a way, like in a more sincere manner, without hypocrisy, seek the one, or not only seek, in seeking, becoming aware of the one that can, first and foremost, becoming aware of my neediness, and thereby becoming aware of my need of the one who can fulfill my need, the one, the source of existence of the qualities that I need, that I'm in need of. I'm in need of health. I am in need of life. I am in need of sustenance. I am in need of existence. So I think if those illnesses and calamities can be utilized in such a manner where they can be transformed into a sort of worship, I guess, and this worship somehow, this worship being connected to, like for me, at least what I understand is that there's a sense of gratitude with worship and seeking refuge in Him with sincerity. And a lot with all of these, then comes this patience, or this patience transforms the situation for me to seek the one who can fulfill me. I mean, just to wrap up my thoughts a little bit, even if what I experience, though maybe apparently unpreferable to me, right? Because nobody really wants to be sick or have a calamity befallen upon them. Once I realize it is a means to something, it is a training for me. And as Muhammad Said said, it's a training to realize my reality, that I'm really only a recipient. I'm not the owner of anything. And so in not owning anything is the opportunity to realize the one who owns everything. And in my recognition that I'm a recipient, that I'm only a recipient, then in a way, within that state of sickness, as I seek remedy or health, is a sincere sort of recognition of my state of being, and a sincere sort of asking for that health. Although I do think the sincerity there is not necessarily just for asking the health itself, but rather realizing that the state of illness or calamity is a sort of opportunity, or something like not lovable in the sense that it's preferable, but something that is good, since it's a training for me. So I think that recognition then is what transforms that situation for me. I don't know if that really answered Asim's question, but it's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Would you like to say anything about those 2 responses?
They were pretty good. I like that. They were in line with what I was also thinking about. Thank you for pointing out. I mean, the verse also is amazing that was highlighted by Fariha, and the explanation of what my existence, do I take my existence as something that is mine, or has been given to me? So same thing with my life, my health, everything that I own is something that is given, and I share that feeling and that sentiment, and that is why, as the Muhammad Said and Beza pointed out, there was also the part of the training part of me. If I get sick, the physical illness. So the physical illness, yes, I am not happy with it. I want to get rid of it, but there's a distinction between that and then the existence of the illness part, the creation of illness is something that is what the meaning side of it, because there's a purpose to every. If I realize that there's a purpose to the creation of it, then I would be thankful, because that is the way I would be learning from it. But and although from the physical side, yes, I would do my best to cure myself or whatever, how, seek forgiveness, do whatever is in the order, try to find the solution to get out of that calamity. But the existence, if I reflect on it, that tells me that, hey, this is something that I need to realize, that your life, your health is not yours to begin with. It is something that has been given to you. So realize that and be grateful to the one who is giving that. So thankfulness comes in there. And also I like the part of Muhammad Said when he explained about if you start complaining about things, then you start taking that complaint to your source of existence, and you start complaining the creation of it, and which in turn leads to being ungrateful to your Lord. Whereas if you are taking in the meaningful side of things, then you are in recognition of that, your source of existence, and keep that. If you're the patience kind of ties to being grateful, realizing who your Lord is and recognizing his qualities at that time, at that moment of that calamity, you would think and realize that, hey, all these things are, being given existence for me to learn, and I need to be thankful for that realization as well, that I'm learning who I am and who my source of existence is. And yeah, and I think Fariha wants to add a few comments, so I'll give it to her.
Thank you. When I first patient indeed of, it's really connected with what everyone else said beautifully. Thanks again for sharing your comments. So the author is really walking us through in terms of how to make sense of our existence. So be patient, indeed offer thanks. So it's really an opportunity. So it's letting us know, okay, so if you experience the existence of illness, then be patient, as in it's an opportunity for you to recognize what you are and who the source of your existence is. I'm really not adding anything new, but the way I'm looking into it is it's just like a formula. Nursi is walking us through that, hey, utilize this opportunity, read it as a message, as a messenger, and then use it to fulfill the purpose of your existence. And really, when one is in recognition of their existence and just the existence of anything else, and people pointed out, like Asim said, the health, who's the health giver, and I think or Muhammad Said earlier pointed out of, if I'm experiencing lack of being grateful, then that relates to me being impatient. So really, the existence of anything is an opportunity for me to be grateful, because existence is something that we all appreciate, utilize, and enjoy. But what is good is this existence if it's not utilized to fulfill the purpose of our existence? So yes, use any opportunity that you experience, be it illness or any other experience, use it as a means to acknowledge the source of your existence. And right, the being patient part is also, it's felt, it's experienced, but what do I utilize this opportunity as is really, I think the question for everyone else here is. And yep, that's all I wanted to share. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I think we covered most of the second remedy. Does anyone feel there's some elements of it that have not been discussed or that need to be elaborated on further? Brother Ali Murmur, please.
Not because something is not mentioned that I would like to add to it, but just emphasis is needed to be put on the passive worship, active worship, passive worship, which is translated there positive worship and negative worship. There is a difference between active and passive, or positive and negative worship. Worship means connection between, as we understand it, the relationship between me and my creator, of course, from my side, to acknowledge him. These are all mentioned so far, but negative, it means passive worship, is more sincere, which is sincere and without hypocrisy. That is important, I think, for us to understand the importance of passive worship. Passive worship, active worship is we are thankful what is given to us. Of course, there may be an element of benefit in it. Oh, I'm happy, it is given to me what I needed. But this may have some sort of benefits, a color of a shade of hypocrisy in it, because I am the beneficiary. It was getting, receiving what is given to me. So I'm happy with it because it is given to me. Of course, recognition is needed there. But if we pay attention to the passive worship, it means acknowledging my need of whatever I need and petitioning, turning to the owner of that thing that I need and begging him, please give it to me, I need it. In this relationship, I am the beggar. My ego doesn't like to be beggar. It doesn't take any pride from being a beggar. Rather than I have it, you see, I may deserve it. That's why I am giving. There are many people thinking this way. I am a good man. That's why God is favoring me. So ego takes some parts in it. Because I deserved it, maybe. That's why I am given. But in the relationship between me and my creator, when I acknowledge him within a completely needy position, completely needy.
Brother Ali, your voice is gone.
Sorry. Connection is gone.
It was gone. You said, I think the last thing was about this relationship between me and my creator. and being in a needy position, and then it broke away.
And then I think my internet is not stable. Sorry about it, but I cannot do anything about it. So I am needy. I am in the begging position, which my egoistic side hates it, doesn't like it. That's why I cannot take any pride in it. I cannot take any positive position from it. It is very humiliating, it's a very modest attitude towards my Creator. I am in need of you, oh my Creator. Please remove this painful situation from me. There is no way for the hypocrisy to creep into this attitude. That's why this passive relationship, passive form of worship, which is translated here as negative form of worship, is free from hypocrisy, sincere. Ego never takes any part in it. That is why we have to be thankful to the Creator of this thing that we are not happy with, whatever it is, anything that we don't like it. I have to see it as an opportunity to have a completely sincere relationship between me and my Creator, and acknowledge Him as the source of everything I need. As the source of everything I need, against my egoistic side. That is why we have to be thankful to the Creator to give us the opportunity to have a completely sincere, free from hypocrisy relationship with Him, and acknowledging Him as my owner, as my Creator, as my master. That is the point that attracted my attention, in addition to what has been said so far.
I'm sorry. I don't know whose hand went up first, Beza or Farah. But Farah, maybe you can go first, please.
Assalamu alaikum. I think Hatija's hand went up first, but I don't mind asking a question. Actually, I just have a clarifying technical question, maybe. So in the up till now, the author doesn't really, at least in my understanding, hasn't really clarified what is meant by sick people, and I guess he says those affected by calamity. And I apologize if this is, just like a sort of not too relevant, but for example, I was wondering, in a situation in which somebody is, let's say, sick, either terminally or with something, very grave, that involves, not super grave, but like that involves like a process or a time period in which, you fall sick, you take remedies, you recover, and it's a phase. And definitely during that time, you have no option but to follow the course of the sickness and take the opportunity to absolutely connect with what the sickness means to you and what the message is it's bringing to you. But for example, let's say I have a headache, and I know that if I take a pill, for my headache, in the next hour or couple of hours, it will be pretty much completely gone. So in that moment, obviously I take the medicine knowing it is coming from also has been given the ability to cure me. But is that considered as, like, I have a weird dilemma here. Like, should I not take the medicine knowing that it's just a headache, just so that I can experience this headache and actually get an opportunity to reflect on it? Or, I just know that for sure taking a medicine, 2 hours, it will be gone. And so will be the opportunity to reflect further. Similarly, I think like a situation like, I was thinking about, let's say, a woman who is, in labor or is going through, delivering. Is that considered sickness, even though it's pain, but it's not sickness? There's a process, you get out of it, there's a procedure, so forth. So maybe if someone can clarify what is it meant by sickness in this case, and how do we deal with knowing that a remedy given to us by the Creator takes us out of it, and how do we deal with this seeming opportunity to reflect or to just take the medicine and forget about the pain?
Okay, thank you. It's an interesting practical question in some level. And I know H-Base, I had her hand up, but I think she's put it down now so that we can tackle this. So I think we should open it up. If anyone has any comments or thoughts on the matter, I would just say that, okay. I would just say that the principle of what's being discussed here is, I think, the most important issue. Whether it's at an issue of your own, within your own circumstances, whether you have access to something that can cure it, and I think curing is probably the more important factor here, not like masking it, because there's a lot of people and I don't know, forces that try to mask the issue of what's going on with illness and calamities. And so I think that there should be a distinction made with those. But I think your question still is about curing. Curing, I think, would be sound, but of course it may be different for everyone and under their circumstances. But the principle, I think, still remains, which is that one should be conscious about what it is they are experiencing, why they are experiencing this, and what its purpose is, which is being discussed here. So, the labor one, I don't see any big difference in it. I mean, a woman, I'm not a woman, but I mean, who, there's many things that happen to them when they go through labor that I don't think they're expecting or that they know about. It's passive, I would think, just the same as the other. So, of course, I don't, this section is not talking about what an illness is, but talking more about the principle of the issue of passive worship. That's my thoughts on it. When somebody had their hand up before we had it. Thank you. Fariha, please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Farah, for boldly pointing out, expressing your concerns and questions. Very valid indeed. And just like Brother Adam pointed out, that these are passive sort of worship. So experience, everything is the experiences that anyone go through. These are particular to our conditions. And you mentioned specifically women going into labor, or it could be anything else, or just like a regular headache. So, so anything basically that puts like a, what do you say, like a pause or interruption to something that we are accustomed with, or that brings about pain, then that would be considered as an illness or a calamity. So something, we all are made in a way where we want things to be pleasurable. Definitely not even a tiny bit of a little headache or anything going on within us. Like even we can notice little ones, younger ones, when they playing, they fall, and then they start crying. Obviously, it's unbearable because it's something we dislike, we are not accustomed to. However, when we keep growing, let's say if we play sports, then we experience lots of injuries, and then sometimes it may even become like a regular thing, or even experiencing a headache. I'm like, yeah. Every Monday evening, especially when I come from work, I get a headache because like all the projects coming in all at once, it's a little overwhelming. And then we keep popping on pills or anything that we do to compensate for that. But so the whole point here is really to reflect on the creation of anything, the existence of anything, and that's why because we become so accustomed to routines that we may not even question like a headache, headache. We say, yeah, regular headache, it's just my Monday evening headache, or it's that time of the day or something. But we need to question more on like, how do I explain the existence of when I have a non-headache state or non-painful state, really? And so yeah, I think this second remedy is really a powerful message that can apply to any conditions that anyone may experience, regardless of gender or whatever, even anything we see around us in creation. Even when there's drought, you're like, wow, even the earth and the plants are yearning for, hey, give me some water here. I'm in need of, sustenance and water. So, but then it's really, the whole point again is, I think, like you all mentioned about, what is this existence for? So we need to utilize everything as an opportunity to recognize and realize who am I and what the source of my existence is, so we can fulfill the purpose of our existence. I hope that helped a little bit, but just wanted to share, how I took that in. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to share anything about this question that far ahead? Ali Murmur, please go ahead.
Yeah, briefly, suffering is not to be chosen by human beings. We are here in this world acting through the creation, through the means, and communicating with God, the creator of these means. We cannot communicate with God without really using the tools. These tools may be something created in the external world, external to us, or within ourselves, within our mind, within our feelings, within our consciousness. Using the means is necessary in order to communicate with the Creator and present our worshipful attitude towards Him. So if we use our feelings, our tools, to choose suffering rather than giving by the Creator, that means I ask the Creator to give me suffering, which contradicts what is given to me as not liking the suffering. So the purpose of not liking suffering, not liking pain, is given to me by my Creator in order to communicate with Him, turn to Him, and ask Him to take the pain from me, away from me. If I don't utilize this opportunity, but rather prefer suffering by myself, rather than communicating with the Creator, this suffering has no purpose, just really torturing myself. It is not, it cannot be used as an acknowledgement of the Creator of something which makes me feel needy of curing, needy of getting rid of, removing it from me, so that I will turn to my Creator and communicate with Him. So, in a nutshell, I should be very careful not to choose suffering, but our subject is when the pain or anything that makes us suffer from is given to me, then I have to attempt the means to communicate with the Creator of the means and present my neediness of His help. That is the best way of communicating with the Creator. When it is given the opportunity to me, I have to use it. If I am ill and if there is a cure created in the universe, I have to use it and be thankful to the Creator of that matter, whatever it is, the cure, acknowledging that this cure is created by Him and you are in need of His act of creation. As the labor, I understand that this is the labor is before the birth or during birth for the women to bear the pain of laboring. I think it is the last and the pinnacle of the warning to the mother that she should not own the baby because she has no power over it. She suffered a lot in order to give birth to it, to the baby. It means you can never, ever claim ownership over the baby. You know that you suffered from it because you are not the master, the creator of the baby. That is the last reminder, but very, very severe reminder of the Creator. If the mother takes notice of it, we have to be very careful about it. It is a very important point to me. We claim the ownership over the child, although we suffer a lot while we are even giving birth to it. We didn't acknowledge our weakness, our neediness. That is, if we don't, that is why God ordered this pain in order to warn us severely not to own the baby. Thank you. That is a good thing also. If you really realize that I don't own the baby, it's not my baby, it is given to me in order to exercise many other good things that God presents to me. That is a very good opportunity. Depends on which attitude we have towards anything created. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting point at the end. Alhamdulillah. I've been through many of those labors. I'm not, and so that realization, I have not personally, we make it very clear, of course, but I indirectly know about it. Anyway, that's an interesting interpretation. Mashallah, it's very beautiful. Thank you. And it's interesting what is going on in the society in terms of what happens there. They yeah, and I don't need to go into that detail, but what people do to mask those issues there, those reminders. Mohammed Saeed, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Two things connected in my mind. The author mentioning 1 minute being worth of an hour of worship for some people, and he also mentions 1 minute being worth a day of worship. And so it means the duration of sickness or pain is not the subject matter, but the awareness. There, it means there are levels in being patient too. That's how I understand it. It's so the means that we are searching, we are looking for the cure of our sickness is not really a means to cloud our reality. Even 1 minute of pain is enough material for me to recognize my reality. And it has levels, as far as I understand. It's very interesting that for some people an hour, for some people perfected man, he says, a day. Actually, it was my question in my mind, that what are the levels of being patient? It means being thankful. It is connected. They are connected. Yeah, just wanted to bring it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Levels of being patient and levels of patience. Anyone want to comment on this? Ishbeza, please go ahead.
So I'm gonna try to connect Mohammed Said's comment to the question I had in mind, because I do think that they are somehow related. So forgive me if it seems a little bit stretched or disconnected at first. My question was, when it says that this passive worship is more sincere, I was thinking, is it truly the case? Because as Mohammed Said was highlighting right now, it's not really about, I guess, it's more about the patience that goes into the duration of the sickness or the pain, as opposed to, or maybe my understanding, as opposed to the healing itself. Not denying the reality of the healing or my desire for it, but rather something within the state of sickness or calamity that makes it more sincere for me. Because otherwise I was thinking, in a state of sickness, sure, I am more likely to be aware of my need for health or whatever the case is. So if I have a headache, I realize that I am in need of being in a state where I don't have a headache. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that when I seek refuge in Him, it will be sincere, in the sense that I may just seek refuge in Him for the state of health. So then that can become a state of bargaining for me. So what I understand, and I'm kind of posing this out there so others can chime in if they want to and correct me if they want to. I'd be more than happy to hear your thoughts. Rather than the state of sickness, whatever it may be, or even the health that I desire, It is just the state of awareness of my reality that makes me sincere in that state, as opposed to I mean, of course, realizing my neediness, like I need to realize my neediness to really be sincere, but not, I think it's like a slippery slope, because I can easily come to a state of bargaining with God and saying, oh, you are the sustainer, so please give me health because I know no one else can do it. So almost like, I mean, I'm not saying that one should not say this, but not coming from a state of almost bargaining with God. And I think then that would not necessarily be sincere. I mean, there, or maybe it can be. I don't know. I'm posing this as a question. And so when with these, like, duration of the sickness or the pain, not necessarily being the subject matter, but rather the levels of patience. I think that patience has to do with the sincerity there. And one last point is that, you know, if indeed it is true that this state of sickness or calamity is not necessarily one where I can be more sincere necessarily, in the sense that I can potentially be in a state of bargaining with God, which then may make it insincere, then that means that the other sort of worship, so the active worship and the passive worship, can hold the same weight for me as far as being sincere in seeking refuge with him. But I guess maybe I should say this to myself: I should not overlook the fact that I am being a human being also means that I have a body as well, right? I have I have a vehicle that carries me, and so I should not neglect this aspect of myself, and also take this into consideration in my recognition of my neediness. I'm not sure if that question was very clear or not, but so I'll just pose that out there.
Let's go ahead, Freya.
Hatice, thank you very much for throwing this question out there. It's very legitimate, and it's very, you're right, it's a slippery slope as far as passive worship is concerned. So, right, just so like Brother Ali said, that nobody wants to suffer. I mean, that's in human nature, right? I would want to deviate from it. I wouldn't want to choose it. And obviously, when one is in a very desperate, needy situation, they do ask for what is it that they need. But at the end of the day, why am I asking for this? So, you know, it's just like a student, the analogy comes to my mind, has been attempting to pass a special subject, and just, you know, he keeps just, you know, missing it by 2 points. And, you know, and so the student has this desire of passing the exam, and then obviously, you know, it becomes also like a passive form of worship where I really need to pass this exam. Why? Yeah, definitely, I want to progress, I want to move on to the next class. But what is the purpose of all this? So like, really, when illness is given, one goes on asking for health. And you were right, if I'm just asking for health just for the sake of health itself, because you know, this is it, then, you know, I can go haywire, and that becomes like a slippery route, sort of with the ingredients of hypocrisy in there. That's true. And so I think you also pointed out in your question and comment and everything that you said, within that I also found the answer, that, you know, one has to know also their position in this universe. So why, yes, I acknowledge what I might need for, and I acknowledge that only you can provide it, but for what? Am I in this universe just, you know, to get good health so I can, you know, just die a person in good health? No, I mean, I think we all kind of recognized that part in our reflections thus far. So I think the sincerity would really come in terms of aligning that which I need in order to fulfill the purpose of my existence. So yeah, I recognize that you're the one that is the help provider. You're the one that's made me in a need of not desiring this. And so I acknowledge you as the source of existence, the giver of existence, so also I can fulfill the purpose of my existence. So I think recognizing that who is really the true bestower of this bounty that I need and what is my relationship with it. So as long as the relationship is also established on a sound belief foundation, where one recognizes their true human nature in terms of being needy and what fulfills them, then it becomes sincere. Yeah, just my thoughts that came in. Thank you. Let's see what others have to say.
Yeah, anyone have any comments about that? Go ahead, H. Beza.
Yeah, thank you, Faria. That was very helpful. So I guess I think you highlighted an essential stage for this process to even take place, which is just being aware of what type of foundation I'm basing this sort of relationship on. Otherwise, it can go haywire and down a totally insincere path. So I appreciate it. It made sense to me, and perhaps it was something that I overlooked. Thank you. And I also don't want to kind of cast a shadow over Brother Muhammad Said's question as well. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to still highlight his question. Inshallah.
Okay, thank you. Well, I believe the question was around the levels of patience. If I'm not mistaken. And Fariha, go ahead. Fariha, did you want to say something? Your hand went up.
I'm sorry, I got a little disconnected, but yeah, I wanted to ask what was Brother Muhammad Said's question. If someone can reiterate that, please. Thank you.
We've had a little bit of time since Brother Said spoke. So, Brother Said, can you remind us what the question was?
Yes, in the text, the author mentions two levels of being patient, two levels of worship, passive worship. And, I wanted to think about it in detail if anyone wants to kind of contribute. 1 minute being an hour of worship, and again 1 minute being a day of worship. And I think the starting line for me was to to me it's not about the duration of sickness or the pain, but it's about the level of awareness. Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Fariha.
All right, thank you for the question. So you're right, Muhammad Said, that it all has to do with the level of awareness in terms of how much am I recognizing that everything that I experience, that existence itself points to the source of existence. So, at every moment, or any qualities that we experience. And also, I think the author, and I'm not sure if that would answer that, but like what's helping me here connect the dots here is that the author at the bottom mentions, Hamim is highlighting, so you should not complain about an illness, which as though transforms 1 minute of your life into 1,000 minutes. So the whole point is about not to complain. And so it doesn't matter if you're given, a day of existence or 100 years of existence, or, so the whole point, like you were mentioning, is that how do I interpret that, or what is my perception of it? And the author is saying, yeah, do not complain it. So really recognizing that this is like a messenger bringing me news from the source of my existence, so I can sort of sort things out as in fulfill the purpose of my existence. And, and it was also making me realize how even in creation, you have some insects also, they just are, I don't know, like maybe microbes. They're just given existence for maybe a second or something, right? So it doesn't matter, like really this whole point of how much and I think earlier Brother Adam also mentioned that quantity side doesn't matter. It's really what I make out of it that helps me fulfill the purpose of my existence. And so I thought that the author highlighting that, one should not complain about an illness, because it's a messenger. It's helping me point my existence to its source of existence. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
I was reading the text, and it says, where it says, it is even established by sound narrations and by those who uncover the realities of creation, that 1 minute's illness of some people who are completely patient and thankful becomes the equivalent of an hour's worship. I'll just for a second pause on this part right here and say, whether it's a narration, doesn't say what it is, doesn't say who the narration explicitly, or it could have come from, as it says there, like those that uncover the realities of creation. But the point is that here it seems though it's making a very simple or easy, maybe not easy, but simple way to understand, saying that if they are patient and thankful, 1 minute of illness, that 1 minute's illness of some people who are completely patient and thankful becomes the equivalent of an hour's worship. As though making it pretty simple, saying that as long as you're completely patient, although I think, as we discussed here, patience may have a lot more than what's on the surface, but completely patient and thankful becomes the equivalent of an hour's worship. And a minute's illness of certain perfected, the equivalent of a day's worship. I think when I first read it was as though saying, as long as you're patient and thankful, that's your main responsibility there. It's as though as long as you don't lose your patience, as long as you don't lose this awareness, then it's like an hour's worth of worship. But for somebody who is, let's say, going beyond this, maybe going more deeply into the matter, becoming more and more conscious about what's happening, or using it as a very strong to describe it, then they would get more from it. As though, just being patient on one side, like not complaining about it on one side, versus going very far into the matter. Both are in the same positive sense, but one is maybe getting more out of it. About how do I know that's part of your degrees of it, but if this adds to anything, just this is what I how I saw it the first time I read it. Yeah, Fariha, please go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Adam, for highlighting that part. I think this is also a nice summary or gist of what the author is trying to convey here, because early on when he started off with be patient, indeed offer thanks. So it seems that, he's letting us know that, whatever we experience in terms of our particular conditions. And so just utilizing everything as an opportunity to acknowledge the source of existence. And he is really bluntly using offer thanks. And I think being grateful, and like just what's highlighted by everyone else, that being grateful for whatever is given and acknowledging the source of existence is key here. So some people who are completely patient and thankful. All right. So he's connecting again this patience and being grateful together, hand in hand. And the other part, he's saying in a minute's illness of creation, the perfected man. So he's making kind of a comparison between some people who are completely patient and thankful, as in you're utilizing everything as an opportunity to offer thanks, versus people are just like, I guess what Muhammad Said was highlighting about the awareness level. So perfected men are people who are really, or the human being, or the attitude that is consistent with their reality. And I mean, we're very diverse beings, and at different points in our existence, or even moment to moment, we can also easily slip, or getting lost in an event, but the whole point is also you can be like with a heightened awareness that I'm a totally needy being, and I am subject to being brought into existence, as in I'm not the doer. So with this kind of attitude, one is really consistent with their reality. So as the author points out, the perfected man, being consistent with who you are. And I think that would also maybe that has to do also with, I'm not sure about the whole active or passive worship. I think maybe it's a mix of both, as opposed to the other human attitude where you recognize the event and you use it as an opportunity to be grateful to the source of your existence. And that's what I wanted to share in a nutshell. Thank you.
Okay, if anyone else has any comments, thoughts, we're at the end of time now. And I'm going to just check in with Muhammad Saeed to make sure, see if there was anything that helped him. But before I do, I would just also pose this question to everybody. Do you think that this issue of perfected men versus the non-perfected one, but still who gets an hour's worth of worship for 1 minute of patience, both the issue of perfecting oneself, as it's described here, and the opposite of it, has to do with the ego. If I understand this issue of the section, seems to have a lot to do with the ego, driver of what and why you interpret, or why we interpret the things the way we do. So let's say someone still may have a share, I don't know, I'm just brainstorming, someone may still have a share of egoistic ideas or some egoism, but still with this, they still took a path of being patient, trying to find and see the meaning in it. Their ego doesn't like it maybe, but they use it as a means of maybe starting out the process of reining in their ego, let's say. But the one who's perfected maybe will have already achieved maybe some level of this, and so when they experience illness, they can go much further in this issue. They can experience more. So their experience of it is not equivalent to 1 hour, but maybe 1 day. So I'm just throwing out this idea. Do you think it could have something to do with this? And I'm sorry, the question, I think because of time now, we should ask it to Muhammad Saeed.
Thank you. I think it is kind of I feel it's a subject that is big because the acknowledgement or the thing that is subject to acknowledge is by definition, it is endless, it is absolute. So I think it is related to that as well, that my acknowledgement of the things that are given is always subject to how can I say this one? It's not static. It's like I say everything is given, but everything is already defined by my observation of me. But when let's say this everything doesn't include the breathing, which I do every moment. And when I have a problem with my breathing, I realize that, I wasn't even aware of this breathing that is given to me. I was the recipient of this breathing every moment. And then, so the moments that I was in this life, the moment that I will be given the breathing, it's, this awareness has no limit in terms of existence, because the existence giver is a source that is a limitless existence giver that is absolute. So in that sense, it is my journey is an endless journey, an endless acknowledging journey. So I think that's why, by definition, there has to be levels in being patient, in being acknowledging person. And I think that's why the author maybe brings this to situations, to different states. And that's how at this moment, I'm receiving what we are reading from. Thank you.
Masha, thank you. I think that's an good point. Another dimension that is consistent with everything that we've been saying, but also adds another important element there. Okay, I think we're past the time, 5 minutes now. So does anyone have any other comments or questions at this point? Okay, alhamdulillah, I think it was very interesting today. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Fariha.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save except that which you've taught us. Indeed, you are all knowledgeable, all wise. وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين بحرمة سر سورة الفاتحة. آمين.